Welcome to my recap of 3022, a dark sci-fi thriller taking place in 2190 about four astronauts that witness the destruction of Earth and find themselves in a most desperate scenario. Enjoy. In the future, MariCorp begins construction of mankind's first off-world colony on Europa 1, Jupiter's third moon. Space Station Pangaea is established as a fueling station between it and Earth. Nations around the world take turns overseeing the station every 10 years. In 2190, it is the United States' turn. A group of four astronauts board the station and begin their 10-year mission. Things go well at first. The ship's captain, John Lane, and a crew member, Jackie Miller, become romantically involved. But over the 5 years, the isolation of space wears on the crew. John suffers violent night terrors, and the ship's medical officer, Richard Valen, decides to report the team mentally unfit to continue the mission. But one day, the ship is rattled by a shockwave, and in the distance, out in space, Richard sees an explosion that seems to be its source. Then, John sees a bright light that knocks him out. When he wakes, he finds Jackie is okay, but another crew member, Lisa, is still unconscious, and the medical officer, Richard, is in shock, unable to speak. John also learns that after trying multiple times, they are unable to contact Earth, and eventually, he and Jackie learn why Richard is in shock. He believes that what he saw explode was Earth itself, and their scans appear to validate this claim because where Earth should be, all they find is an asteroid field. Sometime in the future, an aged John makes his way through the space station and sees a bloody handprint on a mirror. Then, the computer alerts him that a comet has been spotted, and it continues scanning, searching for something. In the present, the team continues their attempts to contact Earth, but after 62 hours, they are still met with silence. Later, Lisa wakes, but she is still in danger. The doctor will have to induce a coma to operate and relieve the pressure on her brain. Before knocking her out, they lie to her. They tell Lisa that they made contact with home, and help is on the way. Then she begins to hemorrhage before Richard can operate, and dies on the table. In the future, John continues to scan and send signals, while hearing voices and seeing figures. In the present, they go over the damage to the ship caused by the shockwave. Life support and power will deplete soon, unless they can find a solution. Richard wonders why they should even bother, considering Earth is gone, but Jackie and John hold on to the hope that maybe there are survivors. Jackie suggests they head to Earth in the escape pod, but Richard points out it'd be a 3-month journey, and if Earth is truly gone, it would certainly be a one-way trip. Then Jackie breaks down, thinking of her daughter, the one she left behind on Earth. Later, when she tries to take the escape pod on her own, it malfunctions. John saves her, but they lose the pod. 3 months pass. The ship's support systems have drained to 55%. Richard begins speaking to himself, and Jackie gets high on sedatives while watching old videos of her daughter. But John is determined to find a path to survival. He asks Jackie how they can hold on to enough oxygen. She suggests they set off a controlled explosion to separate Pangaea's 2 stations. That way, the ship will only have to focus on replenishing the one, and they'll have enough supply of breathable air. But it's a risky move, which might kill them all. When she runs the idea by Richard, he responds pessimistically, telling her there's no point in surviving, and there's no point in going back to Earth. Everyone is dead, including her daughter. Later, John visits Richard, who is now losing his mind and seeing things, like the wife he left on Earth, and the vision of his wife told him to come home. So, while John and Jackie sleep, Richard jumps out the airlock. As he floats off, he sees the emptiness of space and suddenly decides he wants back on the ship. But it's too late. The emptiness of space has him. In the future, Pangaea 1's scanner locates the long-separated Pangaea 2. In the present, when Pangaea 1 and 2 are still connected, Jackie decides it's time to give up. She offers John a pill that will kill them in their sleep. But they suddenly spot a vessel floating outside. John puts on his suit and floats over to investigate. He finds 3 crew members alive but unresponsive, and brings them onto the Pangaea. When they wake, John speaks to the captain, Diane Ernest. She and her men, Vincent and Thomas, were at the International Space Station when it was destroyed by the shockwave. So they were forced to escape on the vessel and head toward Pangaea. With few supplies, they barely made it alive. She doesn't know what happened to Earth, but suggests they head to Europa. It hasn't had crew in almost 2 years, but it is livable with the work that's already been done to colonize it. In the future, John calls to Pangaea 2 over the radio, and for a moment a garbled voice replies. Then he loses himself to visions and ghosts of the past. In the present, John and Jackie meet the other survivors over a meal, then give them a tour of the ship. They also apprise them of the plan to separate Pangaea 1 from Pangaea 2 in a few days. After that, they can head to Europa. They celebrate their newfound hope for survival, and as the festivities wind down, Jackie leaves the room and John realizes that Diane knows more than she's letting on. He asks her to tell him what happened to Earth. Meanwhile, in her quarters, Jackie reviews their calculations and realizes that with the new crew members, their rations will not last long enough to make it to Europa. The next day, she shares this with John and tells him that she wants to take the ISS shuttle and go home to Earth, in the faint hope that her daughter survived. In reply, John calls Diane to their room to repeat what she told him after the party, that she witnessed Earth explode into pieces, and that, as it did, she received a final transmission from the planet. "Oh my God, what have we done? Do not return. I repeat, do not return. Go to Europa." Later, Diane's crew spies on the ship's life support data and realizes the same thing Jackie did. With supplies split among the 5 of them, there is no making it to Europa alive. Vincent grabs a knife and insists they need to kill the others so they can live. And Thomas reveals that it wouldn't be the first time. The only reason they had enough supplies to make it from the ISS is that Vincent killed 2 others on the crew. When Diane tries to stop him from killing again, she is added to his list of victims. With their captain dead, Vincent and Thomas attack John and Jackie. In the fight, Jackie manages to kill Thomas, while Vincent gets to the control room. While Jackie is on Pangaea 2 and John on Pangaea 1, Vincent sets off the explosion, separating the 2 stations and separating John from Jackie. In retaliation, John sends Vincent out the airlock, and suddenly, he is the sole survivor on Pangaea 1. But through the intercom, John hears Jackie's voice. She tells him to get on the shuttle and fly over to rescue her before the 2 halves of Pangaea float too far apart. But the shuttle is damaged, so she begins to talk him through fixing it, until they lose signal. He doesn't know if she can hear him, but he sends a message promising to find her. He sets his scanners to search for Pangaea 2. Years pass, and John finally finds Pangaea 2. He puts on his suit and remembers the way Jackie held on to hope that her daughter would be alive, just as he now hopes, against all odds, that Jackie is alive. He leaves a final recording on the ship.
Today is June 9th, 2198. Day 3022 as captain of Pangaea. I'm setting out to locate Station 2 and retrieve Jacqueline Helen Miller.
On his way out, John ignores hallucinations of his lost crew and flies off in the now repaired ISS vessel. He reaches Pangaea 2 and boards the station. Inside, he sees a light through the window of a door, and behind the door he finds Jacqueline Helen Miller, alive. Thank you for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more. See you on the next recap.